So I need to mix some water. So what I'm going to show you is how I personally mix my drip hydro fertilizer and how I've been using it so far. So far the plants have been loving it, so what I'm doing seems to be working. Today I'm going to be following the Power SI fluid drip hydro fertilizer feeding chart. If you don't have a hard copy, you can find it on their website. I have been talking to Divergent Flowers here in Michigan, as well with the Drip Hydro account on Instagram, and they are slightly working and tweaking and playing with their own recipe to find better results. This is a very safe alternative. They just released a new feeding chart today as I'm filming this actually, and I will throw up both PDFs up on the screen if need be. I'll also put a link down in the description if you want to find the feeding chart yourself if you don't have one, and we'll get cracking into it. Let's go to feeding drip hydro. It's not necessary to do so. I just got myself some new beakers. I'm just kind of excited to use it, so I will be showcasing how I mix in a clear mixing vessel beaker as compared to mixing in a bucket. So this is not required. You do not need a stir plate or any of this nonsense, but let's fill up my beaker and go to town. 2-gallon stock tank sitting that I will be mixing in. I have just filled out 1,000 milliliters in my beaker. I will be mixing full strength into my beaker and then dumping it over into my bucket later on. Using tap water, if you have RO, I would highly recommend to use that over your tap water. I just simply use tap. My tap water comes out at anywhere between 7.4 to 7.6 in the pH range. As well, it comes out anywhere from 0.1 to 0.3. I've never seen it go above 0.3. That's decent in my mind. Start mixing. What we're going to be doing is using our silica product first, either it be Power SI, Vitalize, Mammoth SI. Doesn't matter what you're using, your silica product needs to get added first. When you do this, just focus on adding each part individually. Take your time, let the part fully dissolve before moving to the next step. Just be focusing on each individual additive as you're doing so. Already added my Power SI into my solution here, probably about 20 to 30 minutes now. It's just been spinning and dissolving. I didn't do it on camera, but I used 0.5 milliliters per gallon. I have 2 gallons total, so that is 1 milliliter in total. Step is Calmag. Now Calmag from Drip Hydro is going to be optional. You do not have to use Calmag, but you can. I personally have been using it. The plants seem to be loving it, so I'm going to continue using it. Using this is 1 to 2 milliliters per gallon. I have 2 gallons, so I'm using 4 milliliters at the moment. Add in the Calmag. Give that about 2 to 5 minutes, give or take. Let it fully dissolve. Don't rush. Just let it do its thing. We'll be adding in base A at 10 to 11 milliliters per gallon. Again, I've got 2 gallons. That's going to be 20 to 22 milliliters in total. I have 10 milliliter syringes, so we're just going to be doing 2. But let's add the first one in. This is probably my favorite part. We're going to add in 10 more. And the second half. Again, just take your time adding each part into your solution. Next will be base B at 10 to 11 milliliters per gallon. Alright. And then we do 10 more. Now, I am in veg, so I don't actually need to be using any flex, so I'm going to skip that part. And then as for flow, I actually used Power SI, so we're going to skip flow as well. We do not add Power SI and flow together. These are not compatible. It's either one or the other, not both. If you use this, foliar apply this. Don't mix that into the solution with it. Now my solution has been mixed. It's got all of my base fertilizers in it. I'm actually going to add in some beneficial bacteria. Now, when you go to add in beneficial bacteria, you do need to slightly be careful for a couple of reasons. I'm going to just straight add it into my tank solution here, which is a concentration, and then will be diluted when I add it into the bucket with the rest of the water. I may need to pH adjust. A strong concentration of pH adjust will hinder and slightly not give you full effects of your beneficial bacteria. You could possibly kill them. So when you go to add pH to your water solution, you're going to want to dilute the pH solution first. Meaning get a cup of water, fill it up with water, and then make a pH solution that you will then drip drop into your water to get your full pH down to where you want it to be, or up. Okay, so now I have everything added into this little concentration tank. It's got all of my base fertilizers, it's got my bennies. The only thing I'm missing is pH. I'm not going to test the EC and pH of this jug until I dilute it down into my actual res tank, my bucket. So I'm going to pour that in there now, and we'll test out our pH and EC to see if we're in the correct zone. Here's my bucket, my concentration stock solution. I'm just going to simply just add it right in. Try and keep my stir bar in my beaker here. Now we're going to give it just a quick stir and make sure it's fully dissolved and test the pH and EC. Alright, so we got our probes in the water. We're going to test out and see where our pH sits. We're aiming for 5.8 to 6.2. We're sitting at 6.34, right on the edge. And then we're aiming for 2.2. We're on 2.2. Good shit. So what I'm actually going to do now is dilute this down to the 5.8, 6.2 range. And what I've been doing is I have a little solution. I added 100 milliliters to a beaker, and then a bunch of, I'm sorry, I'm just excited to play with my beaker set. Again, this is not necessary to do. I'm just geeked and being completely over the top. But there's pH down about 3 milliliters in this 100 milliliter jug, and I'm just going to trickle it until I reach 6.2 on pH. Again, this is what I was talking about by diluting that pH solution, so you're not going to kill your beneficial bacteria. I'm going to just slowly do this. I'm going to do it off camera so that I can be a little bit more careful and use both hands. And I will be right back to show you my final pH. How concentrated this was, I added in 20 milliliters, and we're now down to 5.9 on the pH scale. Again, it was diluting just slightly. Look at that, we went up to 1130. We're still in the 2.2 range. Didn't dilute it a whole lot, so we're good to go. Ready to give it to the plants. And that's it. That's how I personally mix my drip hydro fertilizer solution. A couple tips for what you can do now is, if you'd like to keep it for a week or so, just put like a pump in there for agitation. Avoid air stones, as air stones will fluctuate your pH solution of your water. They dissolve CO2 into your water, which is a basic on the pH scale, and is going to raise the pH. Well, my water temperatures right now are 75. The optimal range that you should be aiming for water temps would be 63 to 72. I'm just a little bit warm. As well, you should try and keep your ambient air, or the room that you're mixing your tank solution, or where you keep your reservoir, at about 68 degrees, give or take. You don't want it too hot, you don't want it too cold. And that's it. That's basically all there is to it. Just, again, take your time. Drip hydro. It's super easy to use, super friendly, and super cheap. And as well, super effective. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions on how I've used drip hydro at all, or any questions on mixing it up, let me know. Reach out. My DM is Growing with Dragon over on Instagram. As well, you can just leave a comment down below, and I will try my best to reply back and read them all. Again, thank you for your time. Take care, happy gardening, and drip away.